Hello everyone, thank you for joining me today. In celebration of our We All Read Wind in the Willows book, I'm going to show you today how to make a Mr. Badger out of simple things that you should have at home, hopefully. So our main materials are going to be toilet paper tube. This is just the tube on the inside of a toilet paper roll. You can also use a roll from wrapping paper or even a toilet paper roll if you like. For Mr. Badger and his outfit, we're going to need one, maybe two rolls. We'll also need a good pair of scissors that can cut through the cardboard, a pencil, a black magic marker or Sharpie, some kind of glue. I'm going to use hot glue today because that's what I have. You can also use craft glue, Elmer's glue, even super glue will work. There's very little that actually needs gluing. It's primarily just the ears. And there's an alternative if you don't have any glue. We can cut a slit and slide those ears in to make them stand up. Other things that you might need would be markers or colorings, primarily for the outfits we're going to make. And I've gathered from around my house little accoutrements like buttons, some paper clips, beads, just some little things that I thought might work well as accent pieces. Okay, so to get started, I'm going to show you what the Badger looks like completely outfitted. We've made him some little eyeglasses and a little suit coat, and this works very similar to a paper doll, so we can make clothing as add-ons later. So for this first video, I'm going to show you just how to make your Badger. So I'll set these aside, and I don't really need any other colors for him today besides black, so I'm going to set these aside. All right. So the first thing we need to do for the Badger is outline his shape. You're going to actually use the entire tube. So the Badger, when you start out, it's like his feet will meet in the underside of the tube. So you can see his whole body forms the tube. So in order to illustrate that, I'm gonna, originally you would draw this on pencil on the tube so you could see it better. I'm gonna draw it, I'll trace mine in black magic marker so you can see the outline of what I'm doing. So you want to kind of figure out where your top is and your bottom. And I can just look and match that across so that I have roughly an idea where the top of my nose is going to be and the line that's going to run across the bottom where my feet will be. I can draw that center line straight down the middle. And I know that on the top, this is where his nose is going to be. I'm going to guess roughly about where his tail will be. And we're going to try and make it symmetrical on either side of that kind of split down the middle. So his nose could come to a point. I kind of like that fat blunt nose. It gives me more to work with on the head port too, because we're not narrowing it too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw myself a little bit of a nose here. And it's just kind of marking out things. We can always trim it in if it's too wide, but you can't add on to it. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to swoop down to make his cheeks. And then just kind of mimic that on the other side. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfectly symmetrical. We're just kind of eyeballing it. And then once it's on the bottom side here, I can see where his cheek comes down, and I'm gonna kind of create a C shape so that his foot and the toe comes forward. And then I'll kind of rough out the back end of his front leg. This will be his belly. And then I'm gonna also give him his back foot. So you can kind of see this is going to be his front foot, this is going to be his back foot, and then I'm going to bring this back foot expanse all the way back up to that center line mark. rough out a tail. And then I'm going to try to repeat on the other side. Now you can use where the feet are as a guide for your other side of your feet. And again, I'm just going to draw on his belly. Bring this up to meet the cheek I drew earlier. Bring this back side up here, around to meet his tail. And now I've drawn out my whole badger outline on the tube. I'm going to trace that in black so that you can definitely see where my lines are. So I've just got a Sharpie. You can use any black marker. The fine tip is nice for this. Again, it doesn't have to be black, but it does look nice to do his fur in the black, because that kind of gives it that badgery fur look. So to show you again, here's the center line. I've done that in pencil. So I'm going to trace the outline of his nose and the down part of his cheek. Again, over here, the nose, and then swooping down along the side of it to make his cheek. You can see they're not perfectly aligned, that's fine. Now I'm going to turn the tube and follow the line of the cheek down to the feet. And now the feet are meeting at the middle. So this is a part where it's like it's the whole tube, and we're going to cut along this line to separate the 2 feet in half. Okay, so I've drawn this kind of book shape. This is the underside of his belly here, and the other side of his belly here. This is the back foot and the other back foot, the front foot and the other front foot. So just to finish that out, this foot comes up and meets the cheek. Okay. I'm going to trace out this back here that I've drawn, which comes up and meets the tail. And just outline the tail. Okay, so now you can really see where I've drawn my lines. This is just the center line that runs across and meets the tail. You don't have to draw a line there. And then on the flip side, directly opposite, is this line where the 2 feet meet. And I've drawn in here to delineate the back feet and the edge of the front feet, and then this edge here comes and meets the cheek part up here. And then at the edge of the back, this part here comes and meets the tail at the top. So that gives us our basic outline for our badger. Now we're going to take the scissors, and I find it easiest to cut along that line along the feet there first. So I'm just going to insert my scissors into the tube and cut straight across, separating my feet. Now I can come back to the front and trim around my nose. And if you're having a hard time with that, you can always just come in here and cut. You're just trying to hit that outline. It'll be a little tricky. You may have to come at it from different angles because you're cutting inside the tube. And now that this is kind of stretched out, I can come back in and force the scissors around the edge of the cheek. I can come back into the other side here. Okay. Now on the back side here, it's going to be easiest for me to just chop off a chunk. You'll want to save that other piece of the tube because we can use that to make his sport coat later. Alright, so now, again, I'm coming in and just meeting those outlines, trimming around it. Once I've cut all the way through, it'll be a little bit easier to lay out my full badger and cut it more like it's a flat sheet of paper. And now I'm just going to cut out the piece between his two legs. And now I've got the outline of my badger cut. Now he looks a little roly-poly at this point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to round him out, squeeze him in a little bit, overlap his feet, make him nice and round. And then on his feet, I'm going to take my thumb and almost slide it outward so it gives it a slight outward curve. So you're just rolling this against its natural curve. Which gives him his feet. I want his nose to be a little bit stubbier, so I'm just going to round those out. Okay, and now you are ready to add the detail that makes your badger a badger. And there's really only a couple things here. You can see most of him is just covered with these little hash marks. But it's the stripes here that really make it look like a badger face. So again, with my pencil, I'm just going to come in here, and again, following the nose, I'm going to kind of draw a point up here where I'm going to start the loops here. And there's actually 3 loops. It's like flowers of petals on a flower. We have this swoop here on the cheek, this swoop right down the middle of the forehead, and this swoop here on the side of the cheek. Okay, so I'm going to draw my center petal, my side petal, and my side petal. I don't know if you can see that real well, but it's just kind of roughly outlined. That gives me a guide so I can come back with my black marker, and first I'm going to fill in his nose, round out his nose a little bit because they have that nice dark animal nose. And now, kind of following those guides, I'm just going to make little swoopy motions, and I'm going to overlay them, and I'm just lightly brushing this on in a kind of rough pattern, overlapping them to give myself that furry overlay look, that individual fur. Now once he has a suit coat on, you won't see most of it on the back of him, but it's still nice to kind of finish him out so that when you're changing his clothes, he feels like he's not bald. Okay, and I'm just going to follow those around that edge of it. You can see how I'm delineating that petal there. Do the same thing on both sides. And then they'll meet here in the middle at the peak of that swoop. When I get down to the feet, I like to kind of change direction, and we're making sure that his fur always lays backwards. If you change it and it starts to go vertically, you'll kind of have a little bit of a weird texture going on, so you always kind of want to make it flow in one direction. And once I get down here though, I can turn that around, kind of following the edge of the cardboard, just overlaying these. Just a lot of hash marks. And you're going to continue to do that all the way down the length of his body.